working on a couple of murder cases and pedophile cases. I don't know which ones I'm going to upload to the channel, but I just finished watching, finally, the Netflix documentary series about Jeffrey Dahmer. And I always say that his chart is the most fascinating to me, and he's the most fascinating serial killer because there's so many complexities to him. Whereas, you know, he not only killed them, but he, you know, was performing cannibalism and sex with the dead bodies. Like, there's just so many layers. And this is why I find astrology fascinating. Now, this is his natal chart. But I think if any of you guys are studying astrology and you give yourself the patience and the room to grow and get beyond the basics, trying to figure out who's compatible with who and all that stuff, that kind of is silly when you start really opening up charts and figuring out other things and progressing them to see how you grow as a person and how you change and what your needs become, and pulling out different traumas and different events in your life. Everything just becomes so much more, I don't know, rich, I guess. And so I'm looking at his natal chart, and there's so many indicators of problematic situations and things that could develop into issues, you know, off the bat. Now, looking at this, if you have a similar chart, it doesn't mean you're going to become a serial killer or somebody who's, has an instability mentally or any of those things. But there's certain events, obviously, that can cause a lot of trauma. We always talk about that on my channel. Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Moon. There's wounds that are unhealed, things that progress into obsessions and compulsive behavior. We already see, the moon in Aries, which is the most violent and impulsive, with the opposition to the Libra, that really nice kind of people pleasing, wanting to be liked, with that Neptune also in the first house. So he never came off as any of that. Like, nobody would say anything about him at first meeting. I'm sure they would actually say he was kind of charismatic and empathetic, even with this aspect. And then, I go and look at the Venus, which is in Taurus, in its dignity. Taurus, Venus is very pleasure seeking and has absolutely no self-control. And it's in the 8th house, which intensifies it. And then we see it has a square to Uranus and Leo, which, is the planet of unpredictability. Also, the planet of being very kind of unique. And when it has a square to Venus, this is always problematic in areas of love and trying to figure out, how to enjoy different things that maybe society does not applaud, having an appetite for things that are completely unusual and performing them out, kind of, this is in Leo, so it's got to be some sort of performance and expression, how to express those desires that are hidden with the 8th house. Now, I'm going to show you the progress chart because I did a little research and watching the documentary as well. I'm going through, when he actually started murdering and how it progressed and how different the murders had become from beginning to end, and why he chose who he would choose. Jeffrey Dahmer's progressed. This is a solo arc chart at 18 years old. This is June 18th, 1978. And we see now that his ascendant, this is his first kill. This is when he did his first murder of the hitchhiker. And I'm taking notes here, and it's just so fascinating to see that his ascendant had progressed to Scorpio 646. And look at the moon now, instead of being the Aries, is in Taurus, which is making that opposition. So we can see that his pleasure-seeking moon, that opposition is him drawing in the victim of who he's going to kill. Obviously, Scorpio rules 8th house of death. Now we look at this now, and we see the Venus has progressed to 9 Gemini, and all these mutables, right? And we have the Sun now at 18 Gemini conjunct Mercury. You know, a Sun conjunct Mercury is a very mental person. This is a strategizer. This is somebody who is totally in their head. And it's in Gemini, so, you know, very social, very sociable individual. You know, having this in the 8th house, though, is kind of keeping all of his thoughts and processes, you know, very, very private. And we see that we have a square here to Chiron, which is the wounded healer, and it's in Pisces. Pisces is daydream. Pisces is the planet of delusion. So he's actually going to make these all become reality, because that's, you know, it's literally rules fantasy here. And if we go and look at the ruler, it's in Scorpio right here in the 1st house of where he's going to meet, where he's going to act out all these fantasies out and pull in his victims. I thought that was very fascinating of how we can actually see this. And so now you see that Leo is here on the MC, where now it's all performance for him. He's going to literally express all of these thoughts and feelings and things that has been going on in the 8th house. His pleasure and his wanting to have whatever his fantasy about his different lifestyle. And we know what that was, because he was hiding a lot of his homosexuality, which is a whole other chart reading. But I just wanted to come in here shortly and kind of show you guys how you can actually see these things in a solar arc chart reading. And you can see now, you can see the squaring here. And on the ascendant, you can see that the ruler of Scorpio is here in Virgo, which is obsessive compulsive already, and Virgo rules the 6th house, where the other rulership of Scorpio is in Mars, and it's in Aries, which is the most violent, and the sexual appetite for Mars is Aries, which is violence, you know, sexual violence. It can be rape, and we see that the Mars has a square to Jupiter. And Jupiter does what? Expands, and Jupiter is in Capricorn, which is a sign of authority. So he actually wanted to dominate, violently dominate his victims, obviously. And Jupiter just makes everything bigger. And interesting enough, it's in the 3rd house. So it was all the people was really right in his community at home. And then we see Saturn, which is the ruler, traditional ruler of Capricorn, right here in Aquarius. And Aquarius is, of course, ruled by Uranus, which we can see his unusual obsessiveness here. And so everything connects. It's so beautiful. Like, I have such a more profound respect for my practice, just pulling these things out. Now, I'm not going to go through Jeffrey Dahmer's whole chart right now. I don't know what parts I'm going to do with that. In the comments, what do you want to see? I'm just so fascinated by him, and you know, just the kind of levels on astrological level of what he did and why he did it. And he's so expressive. He's very intellectual, and if you just watch his interviews, and I know he's a killer, and a lot of people, you know, do not dissect murderers or rapists or killers in that way, but I do. I have a different mind when it comes to kind of breaking down traumas and psychological issues and separating it from the actual acts of the inappropriateness of what individuals do, and breaking it down in that way. And if you can do that, then you'll find a lot of his charts, no matter how you progress them, and his interviews fascinating as well. Anyway, in the comments, let me know what you want to see about Dahmer's chart, if you have any interest, and if you've watched the Netflix series, what part do you want me to bring out? Maybe I'll do it kind of murder by murder, or we'll pull a few murders and see what happened. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys. I just wanted to show you that within astrology so that next time you look at a chart, you'll look at it differently. All right, I'll see you soon.